In light of all the discourse going on right now regarding Biden and waiving vaccine IP patents, which he doesn't seem likely that he wants to do, and Dr. Fauci also just came out and supported pretty much not waiving the patents, citing that, there were some legal ramifications and it might have to go through courts for, a certain amount of time. And that's the reason we shouldn't give out vaccine or shouldn't waive vaccine IP patents. Yo, why is it that the worst of the worst people in almost every single sector in this society right here in the United States of America always seem to rise to power? Always seem. So you're telling me the guy who first came out and was telling people that you don't need to wear masks, then came out later and told people, well, I was just lying back then because I didn't, want us to run out of PPP or PPE equipment. You could have told people to try and not buy masks because we need it for doctors and for people that are on the front lines of it, but you could still wear a face covering to, ensure that you're not spreading as many, droplets or whatever, and you're also not receiving those as many droplets as possible. You could have told people to do that, but no, instead he came out and completely lied to people and told them not to wear masks. That's literally what he told people, which is the dumbest thing ever. This is the guy that was leading our national, response, obviously, other than the president. And now he's coming out and saying, oh, no, we shouldn't waive vaccine IP so that the rest of the world can gain access to this life-saving vaccine that only rich, countries have right now. So, it's literally the worst people. The worst people always seem to rise to power. Whether you're talking about a corporation, whether you're talking about in government, whether you're talking about in some of these, like National Institute of Health or whatever, Fauci is the head of. It's really staggering and stunning, and it's not a good sign. Let me just say that's not a good sign. So in light of all that going on, I wanted to share a story because a lot of times, I joke, a lot of people joke that, we don't live in the United States of America. We live in the United Corporations of America. Now, how much truth is there to that? Well, there's a lot of truth to it because corporations, in fact, have a lot more of a say nationally and federally, to what happens and what legislation gets passed because they have so much money. We're talking about billions and billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of influence that they can pay their lobbyists to go in there. They have their nice sweet dinners with their extremely well paid. They pay the lobbyists to go in there and lobby the Congress people who they also pay. So, they're paying everybody. They're in everyone's pockets. So they're ensuring that, they're getting what they want majority of the time when it comes to Congress. So, and they also can, it's crazy. It's always crazy when you think about it because a corporation, right, it's just an entity. It's just an entity made up and comprised of people, right, that make decisions. So when a corporation goes out and poisons a water source, right, goes out and poisons a water source, which ends up poisoning the inhabitants that live by that water source. Maybe they get cancer. Maybe, they have some type of adverse effects, long-term health effects. What does the corporation have to do? They just have to pay some measly fine or something like that, slap on the wrist, keep going, keep making all this money. But there were people, specific people in that corporation, that entity that actually made that decision to do that. So if a person, right, a normal, just individual person goes out and, does something, malicious, hurts someone, kills someone, then that person is held accountable. But when a corporation goes out and does that, they are not held accountable. They are given some measly fine, which is easily paid for, just the which is just the cost of business, essentially, the cost of business. Like I just saw an article not too long ago about how JP Morgan was literally fined for manipulating the metals market. Manipulating the metals market, they got a $2 billion fine. This is a multi-trillion-dollar company getting a $2 billion fine for manipulating markets. Illegal shit. They just did it. They get a slap on the wrist and keep going. Most people don't even know about it. So that's why we live in the United Corporations of America, right? Because they have way more of a say at what goes on than you or I or any citizen, even our, some of the progressive elected representatives, they don't have as much of a say as these corporations who come in and pay off Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, all these people. Now, of course, they can still fight back against that. They do have power. But who is Joe Manchin listening to? Who is Joe Biden listening to? Is he listening to the progressives, or is he listening to the pharmaceutical company or insurance company who hosted the first fundraiser that he did. And he also received the most money from pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies in the 2020 cycle. So who do you think he's actually listening to? So, we live in this corporate state, right? We live in this corporate state, and corporations are gaining more and more and more power and influence as they gain more and more money and buy off more and more politicians, right? So this is a truly astonishing story. Truly astonishing, but not really, right? Because we're devolving more into this dystopia, this corporate dystopia. And so this is something I saw that I had to share with y'all, just because I was absolutely just stunned that something like this is actually happening in the world. So it says hell to rent. This is at Stat News by Madeline Davies, Ivan Ruiz, Jill Langlois, and Rosa Fernell. Said hell to ransom. Pfizer plays hardball in COVID-19 vaccine negotiations with Latin American countries. Pfizer has been accused of bullying Latin American governments during negotiations to acquire its COVID-19 vaccine. And the company has asked some countries to put up sovereign assets, such as embassy buildings and military bases, as a guarantee against the cost of any future legal cases, according to an investigation by UK-based Bureau of Investigative Journalism. In the case of one Latin American country, demands made by pharmaceutical giant led to a 3-month delay in a vaccine deal being reached. For Argentina and Brazil, no national deals were agreed to at all with Pfizer. Any holdup in countries receiving vaccines can lead to more people contracting COVID-19 and potentially dying. Officials from Argentina and the other Latin American country, which cannot be named as it has signed a confidentiality agreement with Pfizer, that's fucked up, said the company's negotiators demanded more than usual indemnity against civil claims filed by citizens who suffer serious adverse events after being inoculated. They said Pfizer also insisted the governments cover the potential costs of civil cases brought as a result of Pfizer's own acts of negligence, fraud, or malice. In Argentina and Brazil, Pfizer asked for sovereign assets to be put up as collateral for any future legal costs. One government health official who was present in the unnamed country's negotiations described Pfizer's demands as high-level bullying and said the government felt like it was being held to ransom in order to access life-saving vaccines. What what are we allowing these corporations to do? So now Pfizer's going to Latin American countries saying, oh, you want this vaccine that's going to, help your country fight back against this deadly virus that's been going around that's, stopped the entire world from functioning. Oh, you want that? You're going to have to give up some of your your sovereign assets as collateral just in case, I don't know, we perform any acts of negligence or malice. Like, that is insane. They're literally holding countries to ransom over a vaccine. Like, that is truly dystopian. That is truly dystopian. And to think that Joe Biden is protecting these people like Pfizer, executives like the ones at Pfizer, who before this whole, before COVID happened and before, they were producing the vaccine, a lot of people start to come to the understanding that these pharma companies are like rapacious mafia people because they keep increasing and jacking up prices to life-saving drugs, essentially pricing out poor people that don't have the ability to pay for these drugs out of pocket, don't have the ability to have great health insurance that'll pay for this. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then obviously COVID happens and we're all sitting here in America like, okay, we're not going to follow any mask mandates. We're not actually going to shut down and try and quell the virus by natural means. We're going to sit around and wait and pay all this money for this vaccine. Okay, great. But there are certain countries that don't have that same ability, right? They don't have the same ability to do that. So they actually have to, be very diligent in fighting back against COVID. We didn't do that here. We have the resources. So we, spend the money to develop this vaccine. We get it developed, and then we let those very companies that develop the vaccine go around the world holding countries to ransom for the vaccine. And now they're going to have all their lobbyists and jockeys in Congress go out and try and get Biden to not waive vaccine IP patents so the rest of the world can be also inoculated from COVID-19, which is going to come back and bite who in the ass? Us here in America, because you're going to have to pay more and more and more money for these extra, they're going to have to develop more vaccines for these different variants, right? Which they're going to, we had to pay all this money for, to develop this new vaccine. So now we're going to jack up our prices. And, the more the rest of the world is not inoculated from COVID, the more we're going to suffer here. The more everyone around the world is going to suffer. And we're allowing that to happen all for what? All for what? Some executives at Pfizer that can make tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in salary and bonuses. Like, we're going to allow that to happen to the world for those people. Just unbelievable. So we are truly devolving into this corporate dystopia. And I want to make sure everyone understands that and knows that so we can fight back against it. And if you're actually, a conservative who claims to, actually, hate corporations, and they're being, you're getting screwed over, et cetera, et cetera. Well, are you gonna call out Pfizer? Are you gonna fight back against Pfizer? Are you gonna keep voting for representatives who allow things like this to happen? Because if the Republicans were in office, there wouldn't even be a chance that vaccine IP was waived. Not a chance. Oh, we're protecting those those corporate profits that Pfizer and Moderna are going to be making. We're definitely going to protect that. Now that Biden's in office, it's probably not going to get waived, but it has a chance. It has a slight chance. So if that's the world and country that y'all want to live in, go ahead. But me, I want to fight back against that at all costs, because this is just the beginning. It's going to keep getting worse. It's going to keep continuing to devolve into this corporate, dystopia. We see it happening with the flow of information. All media companies all media is already owned by 6 companies. And now we're allowing, these, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, like, we're allowing all these corporations to decide what information we see and don't see. So that process has already started. It's being accelerated at this point. And we need to ensure that we're coming together as, citizens of not only the country, but of the globe, to fight back against this bullshit. Because that's exactly what it is. Bullshit.